Yo, what up, Street Dogs? Eric Kim, rocking the Outlier.nyc shirt, black, and this nice Muji, um, whatchamacallit, down vest. Okay, so just got back to the OC after spending some time in Seoul, South Korea, and some quick turbo thoughts. So first and foremost, what was my experience like in Korea and elsewhere? It's interesting because I think one of the big things is actually I consider I like this idea of being able to hop between LAX and Incheon. So it's funny. It's like people's asking, it's like, how was it, right? And so it was a pretty long flight. It was like the I don't know 18, 19 hour direct flight. I flew this new airplane called Air Premia. AIRPREMIA.com. It was actually pretty good. It's like a budget airline. It's crazy from Incheon, which is Seoul, South Korea, ICN, to LAX. The ASEAN or whatever was like $1,000, and Air Premia was only $330. So flew it, brand new airline, Boeing Dreamliner. Apparently the seats were actually designed by Recaro, which is actually pretty funny. But anyways, I really enjoyed it. And the thing that was so interesting was, the flight itself, it almost just like felt like commuting. Like, if you ever been to Incheon International Airport, ICN, it's probably, in my opinion, the nicest airport in the world. It's a world-class airport, like what an airport should look like. Even better than what I've been in Dubai or Singapore, etc. And so it's funny because you could almost, like, in today's world, you could like commute between Asia and the West Coast, like LAX to Incheon, right? And also the way I kind of see it, right, is, just benefits is that, if you didn't know, Eric Kim, I'm actually Korean American, born in the States, born in 1988. Mom's from Busan, dad's from Seoul. I was born in San Francisco, born and raised. And yeah, and I think, after spending some time, about a month in Hadong in the mountainside, and also, spending time in Cambodia and stuff like that, I really think that kind of the hybrid of Asian American is kind of the future. So for example, in terms of global car design, right? By far, Hyundai is killing it. Hyundai also owns Kia and also Hyundai Genesis. That's like their new like Lexus-esque line, and you should know that Lexus is owned by Toyota. A Lexus is essentially just like an expensive Camry. And it's funny because like there's all this talk in South Korea that like, oh, the population crisis, whatever. Kind of true, but it's not going to happen as quickly as Japan. It's funny, like people are always asking the difference, right? So in Japan, like the problem is, no one's getting married or in boyfriend and girlfriend, and no one's having any kids at all. Whereas in Korea, like at least people have at least one kid. So the population, I mean, in the long run, is probably going to die off sooner or later, but at least not within our lifetime. So I see a huge benefit to being an American because, we don't have a population crisis here yet. Actually, the hilarity is that like the really intelligent, rich, smart people, they typically either have 0 kids or 1 kids, or have a dog instead. And, it's typically essentially poor people who have more kids, which is, the hilarity. It's I think the reason why a lot of people don't want to have kids nowadays is that the thought that, if I have a kid, it's gonna cramp my style, or it's gonna restrict my personal freedom. But on the contrary, it actually makes you more adventurous. Like even Seneca, he hates being at home. He likes being out and about. Like it's so cute. He knows how to do button, which is like, a sign we made up for pushing the button. So he'll push the car keys, want to jump into his car seat and kind of go on an adventure. So yeah, so I think it's a wise idea that you could expand your ambitions outwards. So for example, I don't know, just like myself, I want to do more collaborations with Hyundai, Kia, Genesis. I think the cars are super cool. Like I was even thinking about it the other day. It's like if I had the option of either having a Rolls Royce or having like the highest end Hyundai Genesis, G90 or something like that, I'd probably choose the Genesis because I was thinking about, I'm like, if I drove my Rolls Royce to downtown LA and just parked in a random lot, right? It's like for sure someone's gonna try to break into my car or like, jack it or, scratch a dick onto it or whatever. But at least the good thing about Hyundai Genesis, it's probably the most comfortable car. It looks great, and also it's pretty low key, like nobody knows what it is. So in fact, if you're really, really rich and intelligent, you actually don't want to draw attention to yourself. So for example, not a good idea to drive around your Lamborghini if you want, to get mugged or, have the anxiety of parking. So, like, it's so funny because like, I'm doing a workshop in downtown LA soon. If you go, like, the point is not to look, fancy or whatever. The point is to be able to live your life as carefree as possible, which means drive anywhere, park your car anywhere. And in some ways, having a beater is a better idea. So you don't have to worry about some asshole like scratching or dicking your car. And another thing that I was thinking. So anyway, thinking of that. Also, like, LG, Samsung, they're kind of killing it right now. Like, do you remember back in the day, everyone wanted to have a Sony TV, and now it's, all Samsung TVs essentially. So yeah, Korea is actually, one of the highest GDPs in the world. It's one of the highest spending power. If you've ever been to any of the new Seoul, South Korea Shinsegae malls, it's insanity. Just like how crazy, like it makes Japan look ghetto. let's say that, right? And I suppose the difference between like South Korea, Seoul, South Korea, and Singapore, Singapore is a great example of a very industrious, great nation. But the problem in Singapore is just too small. There's not enough people. There's not enough manpower. Seoul, much bigger. All of South Korea is pretty big. Even something that is worth considering, like if you want to do an epic, adventurous thing, like doing a road trip in South Korea, there's lots of great rest stops. Even a lot of South Koreans after COVID are doing a lot more local road trips in South Korea. There's lots of great places. Hadong, South Korea, where my mom currently lives in the mountainside, where I plan on doing a creative workshop retreat 2023. I'm thinking about maybe like early July. So if you're interested, just Google, Eric Kim workshops, scroll down, and then there should be like a register intent form or more info is there. But anyways, so it's so funny because actually there are more optimal places to live. So for example, I would actually say I'm probably happier in Hadong, South Korea than I am here in the soulless Orange County suburbs. But there are certain benefits that come with being in the suburbs. So for example, easy access to the gym. Just did the trap bar deadlift at the gym, which unfortunately maxes out at 4 plate. So I did my 4 plate deadlift. Nice and fun. Costco Business Center, Fogo de Chao at the Irvine Spectrum Center. I love that place. Just order the beef ribs. That's the secret. Beef ribs only. Like last night we ordered just 4 beef ribs. I was only able to finish 3, but we took some home. So I think what the goal in life is take all the benefits and the advantages a certain place has to and just extract the maximum out of it. I mean, maybe that's the soul of the conqueror, is that rather than seeking external reality to be to our liking, we kind of use our force and our power to just kind of mold it into the way that we want to. And yeah, and it, like simple things like, being in Hadong, South Korea, Seneca likes running around and, throwing rocks into bodies of water. Here in the suburbs, there are no rocks. I can't, like, I've looked, there are none, which is really sad. So actually then, we just do different adventures instead. Walk through the streets, press the buttons in the sidewalk crossing and stuff like that. So, yeah. So I think just like at the end of the day, just a thought is, you know, truth be told, there are more optimal places than others to live, but don't treat that like a concern. Rather, think about how you could take a reality and just kind of mold it to your own personal liking. Yeah, and I'd encourage, if you have the opportunity, travel and visit South Korea, Seoul, etc. And yeah, it's getting super easy and lax with the COVID restrictions. I mean, Japan certainly is cool, but it looks like Japan is still quite, I don't know, like a little bit wishy-washy on the COVID restriction stuff. And honestly, it's just like so much easier to travel in South Korea because, you know, everything's written in both Korean and English, even in the countryside, which is hilarious. And, you know, you could use your Visa credit card anywhere in South Korea. In Japan, last time I checked, it was like a little more difficult to do that. I think it's changed now. And yeah, and actually the best way to think about South Korea right now, essentially it's like kind of a neo colony of America, neo meaning new. So the financial systems of South Korea and actually America are pretty intertwined, like so all the technologies as well. And also consider that Samsung is probably like one of the biggest smartphone makers in the world. They also produce their phones in Vietnam. Vietnam's also a great place. Me and Cindy lived there for about a year. I loved it. So yeah, just think international, think transnational. And, you know, I think maybe the hybrid of Asia, America, LA, Incheon, Seoul, South Korea is the future.